been wanting something super delicious for breakfast or even something for dinner for that matter, then today I have a perfect recipe for you. We're going to be making shakshuka, but I'm going to put a bit of a Spanish twist to it, and we're going to use some Spanish products incorporated with this. So guys, before we get going today, be sure to like the video down below as always, and be sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel, and welcome to my channel. Hope to see you again, and let's get started. Now, some say that this dish is from Israel, others say it's from Yemen, and others even say it's from the Ottoman Empire, so there are a lot of, well, controversial origins of the dish, but in any case, it's a very easy and tasty dish that you can easily make at home. This is all the mise en place, or the ingredients that we actually need to make this very tasty dish. And like I said, I'm going to be using some Spanish ingredients, so we're going to be incorporating some chorizo with it. Now, if you are going to be using chorizo, you need to know what type of chorizo you're buying, whether it's spicy, mild, and even if it's already pre-cured or if it's raw. I would suggest using raw chorizo with this. And if you don't know if it's spicy or not, cut a little piece off, cook it, taste it, because this will affect the flavor later on. We'll have to adjust if it is a little too spicy. The one that I'm using today is very mild, so this recipe is for mild sausage. First, I'm going to start with my onion. I'm just going to top and tail it, peel it, and then I'm going to slice it into smaller pieces, or beurnoise is what we say. And if you want a good video on how to, well, learn how to cut an onion or other vegetables, then you can click here, or I'll leave the link down below in the description as well. Now for the red pepper, since this is such a big red pepper, I'm going to show you one way of cutting up a larger one that we do in the kitchen. So one, just cut the top off. I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to cut around the inside to detach the seeds. You're going to throw that out. You can cut it in half. And then, of course, we're just going to cut off the rest of the membranes. You want to lay it flat. It'll help if you actually force one piece of the red pepper flat to take off the rest of the membrane. One thing to remember though is that red bell peppers are a lot more flexible than green bell peppers. Green tend to be a little more rigid, so when you apply pressure to them they break, whereas red tend to be a lot more flexible, and it's easier to do this with red. Again, I'm just going to slice it into longer pieces, top to bottom, turn it, and again slice into little cubes, more or less the same size as the onions. And a quick way to peel garlic is to first cut off a portion of the bottom. That's the piece that's actually holding the skin onto the clove. Then you're going to take your knife, the flat part, and you're just going to use your hand and smack the garlic or hit it a little harder, and it's going to break. And then you can easily, unwrap it. Then either one, you can slice it, or you can cut it just like you cut an onion or a shallot. You're just going to beurnoise. Very simple. So now what I'm going to do with the chorizo is I'm going to take off the casting or the sausage skin. And if you didn't know what this is made out of, and if you don't want to know, you may want to skip this part, but it's actually made out of small intestines. So this is just, a little fun fact. Anyway, just make an incision from top to bottom of the sausage, peel the casting back. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knife, cut the sausage from top to bottom, turn it, and then just slice it into larger pieces. So my method on cooking this with chorizo, first, you're going to get the pan very hot. You're not going to add any oil to it. You're first going to add the chorizo in. And the reason why we're adding the chorizo in without oil is because chorizo has a lot of fat in it. So we want to render that fat out, or we want to take that fat out of the chorizo. So cook it on high heat for several minutes. Once the chorizo starts to lose the majority of the fat, and you can see that it's starting to brown, you're just going to take another plate and remove the chorizo from the pan. Keep the oil in it. This is important because we're going to use this oil to now saute the onions. And this is going to infuse and bring in even more flavor to the dish, especially if you're using a good sausage, because all that flavor from that recipe that they use to make the chorizo is now going to be incorporated in the entire dish. Saute the onions for a few minutes until they go translucent. Then you're going to add in the red bell peppers. Again, cook this for about 3 to 4 minutes until the bell peppers start to change color. We're going to add the garlic in last because it burns very quickly. You're going to cook the garlic again for a minute or two. Let the garlic cook, and then we're going to add the spices. I'm going to add a little bit of cumin, I'm also gonna add a little bit of paprika or pimienton. I'm gonna add sweet paprika, and I'm also going to add spicy and smoky paprika. So this will give a good flavor balance of the entire dish. Now, when you're adding the spices, lower the heat so it doesn't burn on you, because the pimienton can burn quite quickly. Now, before we start, you have an option again of using either whole tomatoes, but that'll take a lot longer to cook, or you can use whole canned tomatoes, whole plum tomatoes. Or again, you can use pre-pureed tomatoes. Either option, it doesn't matter. So you're gonna pour a little bit of the juice out of the can. Then you're gonna take your little hand wand or the hand mixer. I'm gonna turn it on the low setting, and I'm just going to put it into the can and blitz while I'm pushing it further in. And that's it. Now, this is a little thing that we use in the kitchen normally when we literally don't have time to search for, say, a little container, or we don't have one small enough. We typically do this. But again, it is a little dangerous, because you can literally, if this is on full power, spray tomato sauce everywhere in the kitchen, and it's happened before, I've seen it. So anyway, you're gonna add the tomato sauce into the pan, and you're going to mix it. Now we're going to put this on medium heat, and we're going to put a top on it, and we're gonna let the tomato sauce cook. After about 10 or so minutes, when you start to see that the tomato sauce has reduced a little bit, it's also intensified in the color because you've been cooking it longer. This is the time to taste, because if you add the eggs, then you will not be able to mix it well enough to actually affect the flavor. So take a little teaspoon, taste it. If it needs more salt, add a little more. Any other spices, feel free to experiment as well. And then I'm going to add all the chorizo sausage back in. If the sauce has reduced too much, just add a little bit of water to it to help balance the mixture again. Then I'm going to make a few little holes in the sauce for the eggs. You can crack an egg directly into the pan. However, so you don't get shells into the sauce, I would say to crack it into like a little can or a little ramekin, a little bowl, and then put the eggs in. This is just so you don't have a mishap with, pieces of shell falling in the sauce, and then you don't know where it is, and then you're digging through it, etc., etc. Now you're gonna cook the eggs for anywhere between 4 to maybe 6 minutes, maybe even a little longer if you have larger eggs and you want hard eggs instead of like a poached egg where it's nice and runny. So cook it to however you like. And while it's cooking, I'm actually gonna take a little bit of parsley. You can also use cilantro. And I'm just going to remove a few of the leaves because the stems are a little too big. So I'm just gonna remove it. If it's dirty, wash it before and dry it off. And then I'm just going to rough chop these. And that's it. As soon as the eggs are to your liking, you're going to take it off the heat, sprinkle the parsley on top, and there you have a very delicious recipe. Now guys, you can eat this with a little bit of bread. You can also add, like I said, instead of parsley, cilantro. You can even play around with the recipe, or feel free to add a few other spices. Do what you want with it, because this is the most important thing. Always changing or finding something new, or trying to innovate an older recipe to make it that much better. So anyway guys, thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already, and like the video down below. And I'll see you guys again very soon. Take care.